And we're live for Mayor's Update this evening.
Yes, pardon me. I was having some of my coffee shooters. Great. Both just came from a great event. The 70th anniversary of Doug Terry Homes Limited here in St. Thomas. 70 years, a prosperous company like that. Started building one or two homes at a time and is now recognized around the world for what it's doing net zero and the growth that it's doing in our area. Now, congratulations, Doug and family. This has been, an overnight success 70 years later. It's what we always say. But I just,
well, he did a speech, and one of my favorite parts of it was like, at one point we controlled 50% of the market share of the home building in St. Thomas. And they're like, oh, how many homes did you build?
Dick Greenway had built one, and Dad built one, so we had 50% of the home building in that year. I know, I love it, but that's
to grow from those struggles,
the real roots, and to know enough to accumulate the land, like the land around Lake Margaret and the family's land. To know what it would look like in the future, what it might be needed if the town continues to grow. So we thank them. We're going to have Doug on. We just talked about that. We said we should have Doug on to talk about Doug Terry Homes and the work he's done on the Ontario home builders, the Canadian home builders, and around the world on things like net zero and his missions of hope to Puerto Rico after hurricanes and all the work they've done here that they do in our community. So we should recognize him. We'll try and get him on in the next little while.
We talk about his book and the Tiny Hope Project, all those wonderful things. But there's a lot happening in the city right now.
Holy cow.
Things are heating up, you might say.
We're running at full speed, and it's too warm to be running at full speed. It's pretty toasty out there. So first of all, thank you to all the groups that are helping with cooling centers and the delivery of cold drinks and rehydration. I saw the Salvation Army truck was out today. I know our own fire truck, if there's not a reason for them to be out for a real reason, they're out trying to spray the parks and get people wet. We've extended the splash pad hours to 9 o'clock during this heat wave. So get yourself good and cooled off before you go home. And, I won't promise to put on my Speedo and run through the splash pad tonight at 9:05. But
no. And the Salvation Army, they messaged me to let you guys know that they'll be in Pinafore Park roughly from noon to about 3 p.m. From now until Friday.
Right. As we stay this warm, they're great. They're a great emergency service, and there's more than them. Cooling center at the inn, cooling center at the Joe Thornton Center. If you need help, just call even our customer service. Right. We'll hook you up with someone who can maybe help you get. And of course, I saw a bunch of people just walking through the Elgin Center today too. Right, as another unofficial cooling center. You can go do a little window shopping or maybe even buy something, but it's a nice, cool place to wander around. So that was pretty good.
And cooling centers. What does St. Thomas have at its cooling centers? Is it just a place to go and get cool?
No, we'll also have hydration. So I know there's water fountains and stuff at each of those places, and that would probably be it. But working with our other community groups that help us at those places, somebody's likely to have bottled waters, that's handouts and that type of thing too. So it's we make sure it's good and cool in those in there. And on a day like this, you just want to be a little less active and stay within yourself in a body temperature point of view. It's warm out there, folks.
Very, very warm.
We've got all sorts of events, so these aren't going to be in any order either, right? We know that Thursday at Royal LePage on Talbot Street has a barbecue at lunchtime, fundraising barbecue for hospice, I believe it is. And so way to go. I know Ainsley always lets me know about it, but I know there's other realtors that work there too. So that's 11 till 1-ish or later at the Royal LePage on Talbot Street. Come buy a hot dog, and help us raise some more money for the hospice. We've got another group, St. Thomas Little Helpers, have a thing going on at the Food Basics on Saturday. So all sorts of auction items, all sorts of giveaways, and I'm coming to draw some prizes. They've said I have to come, so I'm going to. Food Basics is one of my favorite places to shop among maybe 5 or 6 in town. So so that's happening on this Saturday, the 22nd, 11 till 3 p.m. at Food Basics. Please make your way down there. Some great auction prizes, some great draw prizes. That'll help.
We got Summerfest.
Summerfest.
Coming up under the canvas at Columbus Club, 265 Wellington Street, and that's also in support of hospice.
Yeah.
It's Friday, June 21st and Saturday, June 22nd. They've got a Jersey
I've got
Seasons.
a busy weekend then, don't I?
I know, Joe.
But they'll have some great tunes.
Yep.
It's great summertime tunes, and it's worth going. And look, some of these events I'll kind of go in the front door and out the back, say hi to folks, and move on to the next one and see how many of them we can get. Well, and
it's hard.
Sometimes Stephanie and I say, "Do we split up?" And I went, "Yes." Well, mention my name and I'll mention yours. Let's
divide and conquer.
Sometimes it's what we have to do. So right.
Adam Montgomery's asking, is there any dunk tanks with ice that have Grayden or Joe sitting on the top?
No, there is not.
I hate cold water.
Yeah.
It is a cold shower is one of my least I would rather not shower.
No, I'm thinking the same thing. Yeah. I'm not doing it if I and we
polar
talked about
plunges,
Calgary.
Nightmare.
Well, I did the polar plunge 2 years ago on January 1st. I happened to be in Cancun. And
more power to you for that
happily
one.
went into the ocean. Come on. I mean, nobody said there were specific places, right?
Yeah. Right. Adam's asking, how do you find time for them all?
And you really don't.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the answer. You know, I'd love to stop by just casually at some of the ball tournaments going on at the Doug Terry Complex or soccer tournaments at Athletic Field or at One Password Park. But you just can't. You know, sometimes I get to one and then I can't get away. Right? I'm there for an hour, and that means I missed something that was really timed out.
Yeah, and I've got my kids, and you've got your dogs.
Yes, and I can't always take them. And if I don't take them, that means they're in a crate all day while I'm out. And so we really try to make sure that doesn't happen. So what else have you got? Anybody got any other events? Please let us. Back, and we're sorry that the heat gods have attacked our internet tonight.
So spiteful.
Yes, but a lot of things at last night's council. Let's get as many things off here as we can. We recognized Jack Groot last night. Now, Jack Groot is a local fella who's been helping in Ukraine since the war in Ukraine. And so with a great Ukrainian diaspora here in St. Thomas, there's lots of people that would know Jack, and for him to go over and help is a big thing, so we thought we'd recognize him. Then we did a neat deputation last night. In April, there was a presentation from 10 different design groups from Fanshawe College about what would you do on the railway lands and the museum and that whole block, right? Looking forward to us moving forward to a secondary plan for that block. But this was really blue sky. Give us what you think, students, landscaping students, design students. And so the winners that won that came last night and presented theirs to us. And what a unique design it is. And William Pohl, the professor that helped put this on, talked about how they put it together. And we talked about these are available for everybody to see. We thought we'd let people see some of the uniqueness of these designs about how we could deal with the railway lands with a little housing, a lot of park, a lot of increased community space, and really working on saving the museum. Right. So that's the whole intent to all of this. So we talked about it last night. Then maybe the most special thing that happened last night was 2 different draft plans of subdivision equaling about 1,500 homes in total in these 2 subdivisions, with still some empty blocks in some of them. Now, both of them are side by side you can picture the land from Lyndhurst south on Wellington and over to Major Line. So that fairly big block. 2 different developers have put forward subdivision plans. Now that's the next step in building, and they design where all the lots are, where the parks are. And these two subdivisions come with a lot of housing, some single family home, some townhouses, and some high density apartments, all built into each of these subdivisions. And strips of parkland, strips of stormwater parks, connections of trails between both of those two areas. And so it's exactly because we were talking trails way too fast. But a lot of other things last night was a community garden policy, how you can start a new community garden and how to manage community gardens as you have them. How extremely successful our Arbor Day tree distribution was, free trees, and how quickly it went. We know we're going to do another one, right? But we're trying to find a better way to be able to have people sign up ahead of time so we know we're giving trees out in a better way. Couple of orange shirt days coming up in September, so we said yes to that. Another big thing that you can help us with, and you won't be able to read this, but here it is, the Transportation Master Plan review. Every community, as it goes through its population master plan, as we kind of talked about last week, and wastewater master plans and other things, comes up with its transportation master plan. Now, transportation master plans includes all streets, all sidewalks, all trails, every way you get around in our community, right? And transit itself. So if you've got and thanks. We're sorry we popped out of there again. We're just about to try and move the computer. So if it goes out again, we're going to try and move the computer and come back more live. So master transportation plan, June 25th, 4 to 7:30 p.m. at the Memorial Arena Auditorium. Bring all your thoughts about how to make our city move better and transportation better. So we need you to help us with that. Thank you. And that was pretty much council last night. There was a few other things, but mostly those are the big things that we got done. So I feel good. So Adam and Faye are pointing out your mural.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
You did a great mural. Again, I love it. And there's like 2 other murals this week in town.
Yeah, well, I've seen the one that's over on Step Above. What's the other one?
Yours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think it might be my favorite mural.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And so, way to go. This is what we do in our community. We can grow and have economic data for growth and transportation data for growth, but we never forget the arts. Yeah. As you've seen with our arts in roundabouts and our arts, certainly our arts with murals and parks. So we'll continue to do it. Had somebody ask me, Emsley Field in Pinafore Park is one of the oldest ballparks in Canada. Arguably, London and us argue about who the oldest one is. In its original configuration, Emsley is the oldest. But we probably need to do a mural about that too, about that baseball history. I know we have a great mural of Jack Graney. We have a roundabout statue right? But if we can do something about Emsley Field or that, maybe we'll get a
cool
mural on that too. Right?
Yeah. There's a question about Canada Day.
July 1st is Canada Day at One Password Park. Fireworks will be there after dark. Through the afternoon and evening will be events and craft sales and food vendors and petting zoos and different things we tend to have on Canada Day. So same as last year, we found One Password Park was so much better at getting people in and out, about spreading it out and having a considerably larger fireworks show at One Password Park than we can currently have at Pinafore Park because of trees and houses nearby.
Yeah. Adam saying something like that takes a lot of time and dedication. Thanks, Grayden, and everyone else who has contributed to the others. Well, thanks, Adam.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And Brett said, what's the status of the secondary plan? Well, I just spoke of it, but I'll speak of it again. We know that all of the things we can think about for the status of the railway lands requires a secondary plan, including all the property owners that are part of that block. Right. So that should start now. I think we'll see by fall public meetings on the secondary plan and kind of potential. As we showed here Monday night, potential what could be's of it. And most secondary plans are truly directed by the owners of the land. But in this case, there's a few different owners, and the city is one of them. We're trying to initiate a start by throwing our land in. Really, it all centers around the Railway Museum. We're trying to save an excellent place in our community, perhaps be an event center, perhaps be a true just railway museum. But let's get the secondary plan on the whole of the land rather than, what are you doing in this building? What are you doing in this building? What are you doing in this building? So that's the plan for a secondary plan. We're doing it.
All right. Beth Douglas is asking, are the fireworks going to be live streamed?
I do, not by us that I know of, but maybe it's something the Kinsmen would want to do, right?
It's hard because it's so dark, and then getting everything to show up properly.
Right, because it's such a contrast of brightness versus darkness to do it. Right? I loved what we did with the drones, and I would love to see that again. Right,
me too.
But people kind of expect fireworks on July 1st, and so we're going to keep giving them to them while they keep asking us to do so, and have a fairly big event day on it. Right, I think that's a better way to go.
Brett's asking, who currently owns the rail lands?
Right now, I believe the Railway Museum owns the rail lands, the board of directors of that entity, and the Queso station. So I don't believe it's transferred to Doug Terry yet. This is what the conversation it is. Doug is saying, I'd love to help do something on those lands and give you some money to help rebuild the Railway Museum. And we'll see how we go as we work through the secondary plan. Both of those things are good things. So let's see if we can talk about them.
All right. Brett's also asking, who currently owns the property where Hospice of Elgin is being constructed?
The Hospice of Elgin. It's been transferred to them by the city of St. Thomas as a gift to ensure that Elgin St. Thomas has a hospice. What a beautiful place it is for it too, at the top of the hill, overlooking Waterworks Park.
It's absolutely perfect. And for a community that doesn't have a hospice, I think people have said it's like the largest community in Ontario that doesn't have one at this point. That's fantastic to do.
And it isn't for lack of work. There's been people working on putting a hospice in our community forever. And so but finally the city coming forward and saying, we'll help with the land. There's some other financial stuff that we may also end up helping with, certainly development charges and some other things. But we're trying to get everybody to buy into this and the building is started. So the construction is started. It's where it's going.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Brett's also asking, where does council suggest existing residents emigrate so as to afford life?
No idea what you mean by that. We have most of the people in St. Thomas live here. So are you asking for people from St. Thomas to leave? Because I'm not. I'm talking about growing St. Thomas, and we continue to build an equal supply of housing, and some of it is affordable. We already, even before any affordable is built or any more affordable is built, have about 2,000 worth of subsidized housing units in our community. So that's what we do.
To follow his question about, what is council doing to restore affordability to St. Thomas, the idea is to increase the amount of housing available.
Absolutely.
Which will lower the overall cost of housing in the
Supply
area.
should help meet demand, which would help at least solidify housing costs. If anyone on here has a way to build a house cheaper, tell us. Yeah. Because land and the construction equipment and the materials to build a home has skyrocketed, which is why as we move to more market rent apartments and stacked townhouses, so you're building more with less, and being able to keep a price lower. We'll just keep doing it.
Yeah, and also the units that you're building at Eastwood that the city has just committed. Have you committed $3 million to that project?
Right.
So that's another thing.
Yeah.
And then they have an affordability section built into that, which is a certain whatever market rent is, there'll be a lower rate for people that need it.
Yeah, 75% of an average price of a one-bedroom apartment or a two-bedroom apartment. They have to be at least below that. But the other requirement sometimes on affordability is the people in them are not using more than 30% of their income in order to pay for housing.
Right. Now, Adam Montgomery's got a question. The bus to London St. Thomas is smart. I like that idea. Any chance we see one that travels Highway 3 to like Rodney, Dutton, and or the other way, Elmer, Tillsonburg, other days? Might bring people to the area.
Yeah. Of course, it's all possible, and conversations continue to take place. Middlesex County approached us on the Middlesex Connects one that connected London to St. Thomas and Dorchester. In our original conversation, we talked a lot about can it be supported? Is there enough ridership to support bus to Dutton or Elmer? And many of us that are going to AMO this year are talking to the minister about extending this pilot project. But let's be real, folks. We can't do pilot projects forever. We got to have transit systems that pay their bills, right? Especially rural transit, because it's not inside any one city. So what city picks up the bill for for the busing? So we're talking a lot to the County of Elgin and Middlesex County still, and the City of London as to how do we do this better? How do we do more of it? And is there a market for it?
Well, I was out at Erie Flooring filming last week, and one of the staff people there was saying, it'd be great to have a bus that comes from St. Thomas to West Lorne so that they can have a greater draw of employees.
Yeah, I get it, but then how many times a day can the bus come? How many times a day does it go both ways? Well, now you're talking, if it's coming at 8 a.m. and leaving at 8:30, that doesn't really help an employee who wants to go home from work too. It helps get them there. So then you have to have the evening part where it repeats itself. These are the discussions we're having.
Yeah. And she was asking, what's the process for getting it now that we've got one going from Middlesex to St. Thomas?
Well, Brett asks, what's the council's notion of smart growth? How is this the hardest kept secret in the world? We've been talking about this for 6 years. That smart growth means that you look at the growth in your community. It's going to grow because people want to come here to live, and that's still happening. Over 2,000 people a year continue to come to our area. So can we look at housing, and we look at jobs? Can we develop a large industrial park so that there's jobs for the people that are the growth in St. Thomas? Can parks also grow at the same time? Can the transportation study cause us to grow roads, sidewalks, and such? That's the smart growth we've been talking about for 6 years. It's the smart growth we'll continue to talk about.
Faye Gallagher is asking, do you know why the work appears to have stalled where Drulo is building by the old arena?
No, because it was never on a set timeline. Drulo is a large construction company that came and dug a lot of holes to find how contaminated the land is and how costly it will be to renovate that land or recover that land. And they're in that process. I saw some pretty new fencing go up this week, so I'm expecting that's a good sign, not a bad. I expect to hear more from Drulo in 2024.
I had a question about applying for driving positions. There's a person who's saying, my husband would like to go to driving a bus, he drives trucks to U.S. and Canada.
Right.
First Student, wouldn't that be where you
Well,
would apply?
First Student would be school buses, or
Yep.
Voyago is our buses. So they're both private companies, and so go ahead and apply. Fantastic. If you need help with that, go through our customer service system and ask them for the numbers or where to. But both of those places, our transit center is right downtown. Walk into it. Voyago will help you answer that question, I hope.
Mm-hmm. Beth Elga says, I've had to have some major structural work done to my house before it collapsed. Shout out to customer service, who put me in touch with a senior building inspector at the city.
Yes.
Who helped me understand how to find a competent contractor and what insurances they should have and what the city's part of the process is. I found an outstanding contractor and the work is almost completed. My contact with the city inspector was key.
Right. And that is key. And we're there to make sure that happens. And our customer service part can help make that relationship in the beginning or through our planning department. So, perfect.
Adam Montgomery is saying, I think St. Thomas has done a solid job of keeping their heritage while finding areas to build new places, both commercial, residential, and industrial. Hopefully we don't eat up all of our farmland, though. Absolutely.
Well, agreed. And truly, to this date, very little farmland has been eaten up. Good pun. We continue to try and look in areas that are otherwise sitting with developable land. And of course, as the conversation to our industrial park, we had to add about 1,500 acres to our community in order to do the industrial growth. Not too many 14-story factories, so we have to have land where large factories can build. We recognize that, but in our smart growth plan, we realized we needed the jobs for the 35,000 people that will be coming to St. Thomas between now and 2051. And so we've done it. We'll continue to do it. It won't stop. It's the smart growth that we've been looking at. So agreed. It's not what we want to do. Farmland is pretty precious to us too. But the owner of that land gets to make the choice he makes too. Right. And that's really what's happened in most of the sales. Not most, all of the sales. Somebody who owned the land wanted to sell it. So we can do that too.
Most of it, not all of it.
Well, that's up.
Maybe in St. Thomas is
as you and I talk each and every week, our plan is to densify St. Thomas as much as we possibly can. We have to, in order to use up land in St. Thomas that isn't currently being used. That's the first bit. Let's do that first. Yeah.
Question from Brett. How are long-term residents of St. Thomas expected to compete with new residents with geographic privilege for housing amidst unprecedented growth?
Again, is the question we shouldn't allow new people to St. Thomas? Because the answer to that is no. Right? The people of St. Thomas have equal growth ability with the new industries we've brought, the new commercial developments we've brought, with the value of the homes they currently own in order to buy even better homes. And we'll continue to work on the affordability side for those that need that too.
A general question from Brett, like what is more important, home values or housing affordability? I think this ties in.
I don't think they can be separated.
Yeah.
I think home values continue to go up as home values grow. Now, the affordability piece is if you do own that house, you now have a great deal of equity, right? So if it was your home. If it wasn't your home and you're now looking for a new home, we have to continue to work on the supply, we being the city and everyone else, in order to keep the prices at a fair level, right? That's the secret. That's what we can do. And we have built into our housing department a certain amount of also affordability. But we've heard lately of our Tiny Hope project, of the Eastwood project, of other community groups also working on the affordability side along with us. And we're contributing to each of those projects and many more, including all the indwell projects because look, cities don't build houses or apartment buildings very well. They're not in the business of that. But if we can partner up with other people who are in that, then we eat away at the affordability side underneath while we're looking at the housing values and the growth and what type of housing there is in St. Thomas as part of our full plan.
Yeah, and this is a much deeper conversation as well.
Yep.
If you look at Canada and how the rental rates have gone up, and then the landlord tenant board,
Yep.
and all of the
Yep.
issues that they're having in terms of having issues come before them. So then people are putting up rents and they have to have higher insurance. So they have to charge all tenants more, which is horrible.
Right.
So there's a whole system of here that's not just involved in whether or not you've got.
Yeah. And very little of what that is really municipal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, we've put subdivision plans together for developers, and as Beth was like, we have building standards through our building inspectors. We're back, and sorry again. It seems to be real gremlin-y today about the internet. So, one of the last questions we'll get to is, when will council consider land value tax? Well, this council and almost all the municipalities across Canada, as I was just at FCM, are trying to look at better ways to fund municipalities. Mm-hmm. But land value tax sounds to me like property tax, and that's what we are. We do. Mm-hmm. We take a certain amount of property tax from our industries, from our housing, from our commercials, and that rolls up to be the money we use to run our city. So if we're looking across the country, is how can you do it different?
Mm-hmm. And Adam Montgomery is saying, are there any subdivisions or areas you're hoping to annex into St. Thomas in the near future?
Look, St. Thomas is going to grow a lot, but I'd like to force us to use the land that's available inside as Grayden mentioned about sprawling into farmland. I'd rather, can we fill this in? Can we fill in some of that very contaminated railway land with housing? Can we fill in some of the other spots around town, former industrial sites, like on the site where Tiny Hope is going? Let's fill all these in first. Don't push me to grow when we still got places to grow in St. Thomas. So we'll do that.
Very good. All right. Yep. That's our time for this evening, folks.
Right.
Thank you so much for joining us. Mayor Joe, thanks again for your time every week.
Happy to do it. Let's keep talking.
Absolutely. All right. We're going to rock and roll right out of here, and we'll see you all next week.